This video is for those younger men who may have a TikTok addiction.
It's about the foolish choices we've been making over the past half century.
You start to realize that this is a lot more serious than we think it is.
Why are we still one of the 6 largest economies in the world?
We're only big because we have such enormous debt.
How TikTok comes into this equation is very, very interesting.
A disastrous criminal justice system, one of the worst education systems in the modern world, the trashing of our own culture so nobody knows it anymore or knows any of their history. That's what we've achieved.
It's almost like it's psychological warfare.
On the brink of serious economic crisis, the whole West is, and when it happens, I think people will realize just what a fantasy our supposed power and influence are.
There is a term called subversion.
Hard times create strong men create good times. I wanna be one of those who climb up the ranks and rise. I'm gonna train my body to hold my own in a fight. I'm gonna clean my heart out so we can learn to never rises, but this time I'm gonna learn to rise. Way back in the 90s, a Pakistani engineer and manager at a paper mill factory planned on taking his wife and 2 children to the United Kingdom to give them better opportunities and education. Having traveled to several different countries due to his work, the engineer understood the value of taking the children abroad. However, leaving Pakistan meant leaving behind the friends and family and the position at work he had acquired. While staying at a hotel for what was probably a work-related function, the engineer would meet a hand reader. The palmist in the hands of the engineer would predict the coming of a 3rd child into the engineer's family, a 2nd son. Little did they know that this boy would grow up to be the leader of thousands upon thousands of men. So we can learn to rise. Never rises, but this time I'm gonna learn to rise. After Hamza was born, his father decided it would be better to leave for the UK sooner rather than later, as this would allow his children to be better prepared for the higher education they would receive in the Western world. All he had to do was get some paperwork done, or so he thought. The engineer would have to travel long distances to a town in the hills, arriving at 1 a.m. in the morning at the embassy to secure his visa. He was a very busy man, and in the middle of this busyness, a supervisor at the paper mill factory stole his passport and used it to flee the country. The incident caused a dent in his plans and sent him into a downward spiral, drinking more excessively, skipping work, and becoming more violent and aggressive towards the people around him. When he finally pulled himself together, he used his connections at the police station to get the issue resolved. The man who stole his passport was eventually caught and deported back to Pakistan, where he was put in jail and the passport was returned to the engineer. Now he was more determined than ever to get his family out of the country and into the UK. But the obstacles were not yet over. So we can learn to rise. All we have is dark, dark nights. The sun never rises. This time I'm gonna learn to rise. Hamza's father would arrive in the early mornings at the embassy in the hills, only to find long lines of people already there. Since the officers only accepted a certain number of people a day, he would have to return day after day, earlier and earlier, in hopes of being among those that they let in for that day. Every day he would watch richer, more successful people send their servants and people they paid for to stand in line for them, and then trade places when the embassy opened up. When he was finally let in, they told him that they could only approve a 6-month visa. Hamza's father rejected it, telling them that he would only accept a 2-year visa. At the embassy, they were taken aback by this. They had never seen anyone reject a visa before, and so they approved the 2-year visa. By the very early 2000s, Hamza's father had successfully arrived at the UK, one of the most prosperous countries in the world. But in the shadows of this prosperity lurked a dark side that was watching and waiting to sink its teeth into the unsuspecting immigrant family. So we can learn to rise. All we have is dark, dark nights. The sun never rises, but this time I'm gonna learn to Hamza was a sensitive child. When his father would scold his brother for doing something wrong, Hamza would go to his room and sulk on behalf of his brother. He was also very inquisitive, annoying his father with technical questions about how things like electronics in the house work. When his brother and sister started school, Hamza came along to drop them off, and after seeing all the toys in school, he cried for 2 hours straight, begging his parents to let him attend school a year early. The family enjoyed their stay in the UK until its dark side began to reveal itself. At school, Hamza and his siblings were constantly bullied for being non-white students. In a post-9/11 Western world, and during what they called the War on Terror, Middle Easterners became an easy target. The bullying escalated to the point where the bullies were following them from school and harassing them at their own home, shouting racist remarks and throwing eggs at their windows. It would escalate to the point where somebody threw a solid brick, smashing the window of their own home. And one guy even showed up with a knife. What was particularly terrifying was that Hamza lived not too far away from where a black student, Anthony Walker, was killed in an unprovoked racist attack with an axe during the mid-2000s, about the same time that Hamza's family was receiving the racial abuse. The message to young Hamza was clear: if you want to live in the UK, be white. And so, in a desperate attempt to fit into the Western world, he began to act white and making self-deprecating jokes about his own race and religion. Hamza turned his back on his own race. He turned his back on his own culture. He turned his back on his own God. And even after giving up so much all throughout high school, he still never fit in. He then turned to online video games for comfort and camaraderie. His social skills took a huge dip, but the lessons that the video games etched into his brain would prove to be more useful than he had ever imagined. So we can learn to rise.